Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Burgess. I am an Associate Lecturer in International Business and the Program Coordinator for the Bachelor of Business, International Business in the School of Business and Creative Industries, the University of the Sunshine Coast. I am presenting our paper comparing player preferences for historical accuracy and authenticity on behalf of myself and my co-author, Professor Christian Jones, head of the Engage Lab in the School of Law and Society, also at the University of the Sunshine Coast. And we are really delighted to be presenting our work for the second year in a row. You've probably heard of the Total War and Assassin's Creed series of video games. These are two long-running, popular and commercially successful video game series. They're also probably the two most prominent examples of video games who utilise a historical setting. Their prominence and popularity thus makes them very influential when it comes to their depictions and representations of history. Their interactive nature as video games also makes them even more powerful compared to other media, such as film, television, or novels. Both video game series appear to utilise the technique known as selective authenticity when it comes to their historical representations. Selective authenticity carefully chooses which historical aspects to foreground and use, and which other historical aspects should be modified, changed, discarded, or maybe fictionalised. Historical authenticity, or selective authenticity, is not about fictionalisation and inaccuracy. It carefully considers which elements of history to utilise to convey a meaning, a message, and live up to player expectations. Both Total War and the Assassin's Creed series have also been very public regarding their use of research and academic consultants. Developers in interviews have discussed the level of research, the level of accuracy they have been attempting to use, and the academic consultants have also often given interviews. So despite both series' fictionalisation of history, they've also carefully marketed their series to utilise historical accuracy. However, despite developers foregrounding their use of historical research, the developers of Total War and Assassin's Creed have also been upfront that they have added historical inaccuracy to their games for gameplay, story, and other purposes. That is despite evidence that video game players actually highly value historical accuracy. For example, players of Europa Universalis will often set themselves challenges to be historically accurate in their gameplay. For instance, only conquering nations that their chosen country or kingdom did conquer. Players of Rome Total War created a total conversion mod that remade the game to be much more historically accurate. For example, place names, faction names, unit design, and unit weapons. There's also the popularity of the History Respawned podcast. That is a podcast that critiques and examines historical representations in games. So you can see that actually players of video games perhaps highly value historical accuracy. Interestingly, that makes them in some ways similar to consumers of historical fiction novels. Readers and consumers of historical fiction novels value accuracy. They want to know that the writer, that the author has done their research. They like learning about history through their consumption of historical novels. So video game players' value of historical accuracy perhaps moves them a little more closely to consumers of other more traditional media. Despite the evidence that video game players do value at least some historical accuracy in their games, there is also evidence that video game developers do not understand this valuation, that there is a disconnect there. The most prominent example of this evidence are the interviews conducted by Copplestone in 2016. She found that 94% of the video game players interviewed felt that the historical accuracy of video games depended on the genre or the style, whereas 54% of video game developers thought that historical accuracy was never important. So 94% of players thought it was important sometimes, depending on the genre or the style, and 54% of developers thought it was never important. There's a big disconnect, and a concerning one, considering the power that consumer player expectations have on satisfaction and enjoyment of a video game. Furthermore, research into how players value and understand historical authenticity or selective authenticity and historical accuracy in video games is still emerging, meaning that there is still work to be done to uncover and understand how players actually view and value authenticity and accuracy. So what was our aim with our research? Well, to advance knowledge of players of video games with historical settings and these players' valuation and value of the accurate representation of history in these games, our research used the popular Assassin's Creed and Total War series of games to explore how this desire for accuracy versus authenticity might differ or compare between the player bases of these two games. So how did Total War players value accuracy and authenticity, and how did Assassin's Creed players value accuracy and authenticity? And these two game series were selected because of their long-running and popular nature, which means their players would have had likely sufficient time to play the games, familiarise themselves with them, and analyse their historical content. Online threads discussing the accuracy and authenticity of the historical representations in the Assassin's Creed and Total War series were downloaded using a custom Python script. These were then analysed using thematic analysis according to the methods set out by Braun and Clark. The analysis was an iterative and continuous process, meaning that threads were returned to, comments were returned to, and re-examined as the analysis progressed, to ensure that the collective meaning was being established and was being considered. The analysis involved a variation of netography, non-participant netography, and was informed by the active story interpreter role. So that's where the researcher immerses themselves in the context surrounding the data and surrounding the research context. So in this case, this immersion involved playing both game series, lurking on the forum threads, reading news articles and blog posts about the games, watching online gameplay videos about the games and so on, to ensure that, that collective meaning is appropriately understood. So, what did we find? Well, the results indicated that the players of the Total War series could be divided into one of two sides: those who desired complete historical accuracy, or accuracy moderated by other factors, such as gameplay. The players of the Assassin's Creed series, however, placed less value on strict historical accuracy. They desired some accuracy, but they were comfortable with accuracy that was more moderated by gameplay. So something more akin to selective or historical authenticity. Therefore, the results indicate that players of historical video games are not a homogeneous group with regard to their desire for historical accuracy and historical authenticity. Despite Total War and Assassin's Creed both utilising historical settings, their players did not view and value historical accuracy and historical authenticity in the same way. The Total War players placed some more value on more rigid accuracy, while the Assassin's Creed players moved more towards historical or selective authenticity. So, where to next? Well, this research has provided more insights regarding video game players' perceptions of historical accuracy and authenticity, and that's still an emerging research area within game studies. The results of the research have also been used to inform a qualitative survey that's been posted on the Assassin's Creed subreddit. The survey further explores players' perceptions of, knowledge of, and desire for historical accuracy and authenticity. The survey data has been collected, analysed, and an article is currently being written up and prepared for submission. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation and our paper, and I'm looking forward to taking any questions you might have in Zoomland at the conference.